All right, let's answer some of your questions. Nelly with a Y. Did Nagy ruin the Bears' season when he made the switch to Nick Foles? Remember, that was way back in week 3, trailing to the Falcons. Nick Foles comes in, comes back and wins the game. Foles is installed as the starting quarterback on a gut-feeling type basis. He held that job until suffering a butt injury against the Vikings on a Monday night several weeks ago. Did Nagy screw things up by going with Foles, Charean?
He surprised me all the way through this thing on how he's picked these quarterbacks. And I think we all thought going into the season it was going to be Nick Foles. And that was the surprise when he picked Mitchell Trubisky to start the season as a quarterback. And they were 3-0. And I realized Foles came in and saved the day in the third of those games. And the teams they played were not very good. The Lions, the Giants, and the Falcons. I get that. But they were 3-0. And Foles is, as we've said all along, he's a great backup quarterback. He's never started more than 11 games in a season. That was 2015 with the Rams. There's a reason why. He's a great backup, perhaps the greatest backup in NFL history. I would have kept him in that backup role, see what I have in Mitchell Trubisky, but you're trying to get to the playoffs. You're trying to keep your job. There's all these other things that come into it. But now they've got to figure out what they have in Mitchell Trubisky and what they're going to do at the quarterback position after the season. I just think they have huge questions now, Mike, at that position.
Trubisky due to become a free agent because they didn't pick up the fifth-year option. Unless they run the table and make it to the playoffs and win a game or two, they won't use the franchise tag or the transition tag on Mitchell Trubisky. You're talking about too big of a financial commitment. So he'll hit the open market. And the incentive for him, quite simply, is to play as well as he can to get someone else interested in giving Trubisky a chance for 2021. Much like Carson Wentz, he may just need a change of scenery. But I'm not ready to say Nagy ruined the season. He did what he thought was right under the circumstances. I don't know that they would have been much better with Trubisky playing. I think this was a total failure of the offense. In recent weeks, they've tried to do some different things. It's too late for that. But I feel like they were destined to lose all those games, even if they had stuck with Trubisky. New York Nick asks this question: does home field advantage in the playoffs matter in 2020, Charean?
Well, what is the difference between playing in New Orleans in a dome and Green Bay outside? So I would say absolutely yes. The bigger thing even than that, Mike, though, is getting that first round bye. Since there's only one of them this year, I think it's vitally important to get the number 1 seed, to have home field. And as Rodney's going to talk about, and as I alluded to earlier, Aaron Rodgers hasn't had that championship game at home. And can you imagine Green Bay, even without fans, in January with Aaron Rodgers and probably a snowy game? That would be a lot of fun. But New Orleans wants to be in a dome, of course, and they want to get that home field for just that reason.
Yeah, I remember a playoff game at home, 2011, where the Packers had been 15-1, heavily favored over the Giants, and they blew that. I just think they've got the propensity to have a stinker at some point in the playoffs, even if they end up with a 1 seed. Those 2 games, there's a chance that after the fact, much like what you said earlier about Sean Payton, the exact same quotes from last year when they lost to the Falcons, there's a card out there that Aaron Rodgers has ready to go with passive-aggressive shots about the team not having sufficient energy, the team not being ready to play, the team not being ready to execute, without ever saying who's to blame for that. But we all know who's to blame for the failure of a team to prepare, because Sean Payton admits it's the coach when that happens. But that's where my doubt is. And I hope, and look, I don't want to be picking favorites here, but man, I'd love to see Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That would be compelling. That would be exciting. I don't know that the Packers could beat the Chiefs, but it would be great to see that matchup. But first, the Packers have to get there. Whether they have the home field advantage or not, I think that you can count on the possibility of the Packers blowing it at home. But otherwise, it's not the same as the home field advantage would be in other years, because there's no crowd there. And one thing we've seen in record numbers this season, comebacks from 10 or more points behind, because if you're the road team, there's no noise to deal with as you try to come back. And if you're the home team, there's no booing to deal with as you try to come back, as your fans are all upset that you've played so poorly. So that could be a factor in the postseason as well. One more real quickly, JR, the boss man. Does the Browns' performance without Odell Beckham make it more likely that he'll be traded in the offseason, Charean?
Well, they've certainly been good without him, Mike, and they have proved our point that we thought they were going to be a better offense without him, and they are. It allows them to run the ball, which they're really good at. Takes the ball out of Baker's hands, and he spread the ball around. 4 touchdowns last week to 4 different receivers. I think they're better without Odell Beckham.
Yeah, and if you have any doubt about that, because I've said all along they'd be better off without him, because in the passing game you don't have to focus on Odell Beckham Jr. and maybe wait too long for him to come open and not get through your progressions fast enough. Just throw to the open guy. Go through your progressions, throw to the open guy if you don't have that guy who's sucking up all the attention and footballs. But look for Stephon Diggs' quotes about why he wanted out of Minnesota. When you become run-centric, you alienate star receivers. And Odell Beckham Jr. would have been alienated by the new offense in Cleveland as they go heavy with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.